Hi, this is Mary Greendale with Holliston Cable Access Television, and today I'm meeting with Dr. Jackson at the school. He's the superintendent, and I wanted to talk to you about school safety today. Obviously a hot topic around the nation, and I read your Facebook post right after the shooting in Florida, and clearly you sounded frustrated. How are you doing about it now? What are you feeling?
Well, it's funny, you react to these things on so many different levels, on a personal level and on a professional level. On a personal level, I remain frustrated that we continue to not do much as it relates to access to guns by those who could commit violent acts against our society. And my Facebook post was basically expressing some frustration about that. As the superintendent, my responsibilities are a little different, and I have to kind of put those feelings aside and deal with the cards that have been dealt to us as a society and prepare our schools to make sure they are secure, and at the same time, on a personal level, continue to advocate for what I think we as a society need to do to keep our society safe.
Not just the schools?
Not just our schools. I mean, we saw, although it had nothing to do with guns, we saw just this weekend an act of violence in this beautiful library in Winchester.
Saw that.
Very sad.
Tragic.
Yes.
Tragic, and yet you're right. It wasn't a gun, it was a knife, but we're fundamentally talking a young man who clearly had some issues.
Yes.
There's a common thread there. Now, I know you can't talk specifically about what the plans are that you have in place as far as the Holliston schools are concerned, but are you still confident in the plans that you have in place, or are you considering any changes based on events that took place in Florida?
Well, we are always testing our plans against what we learn about any incident that takes place in our nation. And so our plans are constantly under review, but not only by school personnel, but by our local public safety personnel, both the police and fire departments specifically. So on the outset, I haven't seen much to indicate that what happened in Parkland offers a lot of new information about what one needs to be alert and aware of. But we're always waiting for, to get the final report. I think it's important to recognize that unlike society and what's happening socially, school safety is an issue that we think about every day, that the Holliston Police Department thinks about every day, the Holliston Fire Department thinks about every day, the Holliston Public Schools thinks about every day. And it doesn't take a tragedy like what happened in Parkland to get us to be alert to the issue. So while I'm very pleased that there's a lot of interest in this topic right now, much like there was right after the tragedy in Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut, this is not an issue that comes and goes for us. This is an issue that we deal with every day, address every day, and are alert to every day.
And I'll bet in my generation anyway that administrators and superintendents never had to think about it.
Well, it's funny. I was talking to my 91-year-old mother on the phone the other day, and she was upset about, she said, I never really thought about the responsibility you have. To the point where I actually wanted to change the subject, because I try not to think of the responsibility in those terms
Sure.
that often. But this is the nature of the job these days.
Can I ask, is the thinking in a plan, when you're putting a plan together, are you also considering, or do you take into account known people that might be an issue, as they were in the Florida situation?
Well, there's two types of pieces to any type of safety planning. One is planning for should an event occur, and one is planning and actions to take and try to minimize the chances that something occur. So those are two separate things. So you have to do pre-incident planning and trying to minimize the chances of an incident happening, and then you have to do post-incident planning. much like you do with fire safety. You make sure that your buildings are safe from fire, and then you also do fire drills in case that turns out not to be the case. In Holliston, I have found, since I've been here, at least for the past 14 years, that we have a really very strong community here in Holliston and a very good sense of neighbors and community. And that is critically important, because typically one of the overarching learnings that has conclusions that's come from studying all of the incidents of this nature is that in almost every case, the person who was the person who was the shooter, or was the person who attacked the school or the Aurora movie theater or whatever, someone knew that was going to happen, or had a really, really, really strong sense that it was going to happen. And we know in Parkland that to be the case as well, actually in spades. Yes. So in terms of preparation, I think Holliston has an advantage because of its small town community nature. The fact that it's very hard to hide in this community, and if people are having challenges or difficulties, families are having challenges or difficulties, or individuals are exhibiting behaviors that are worrisome, it's very hard to stay under the radar in this community. And I urge anyone who has those feelings about people who, to make sure that authorities know something so that we can be alert to those types of issues. To me, that is the most important thing, and that is the number one piece about keeping schools safe that everyone agrees, is that you need to, if you're concerned about something, you need to let authorities know, and then the authorities need to follow up. Unfortunately, in Parkland, the first part happened. It seems, given what we currently know, that the second part didn't.
Yeah, exactly. What did you think of the idea of arming teachers and people in schools in general?
I think it's ludicrous.
Okay.
Period. End of conversation.
No
question. The answer to this problem is not more guns in school. We have extraordinary teachers in this community, extraordinary educators in general, and they have more than enough on their plates without having to worry about firearms in schools. There are a gazillion logistical questions and problems that nobody has even talked about, such as making sure they're safely stored and all these things. So why would you bring more weapons into schools? To me, that is just baseline stupidity. And I will not be the superintendent of schools in a community that arms its teachers.
Where do you draw the line between safety and militarizing? Pretty much where we are, or can you imagine?
This is a big challenge. This is always, schools, and we're actually considering this challenge now as as students start to come forward and express some interest in joining the conversation about school safety and in joining some of the social media-driven protests that are starting to spring up around the country. There's always this challenge about trying to maintain order in a school. Schools are, I try not to think about it in these terms, or try not to really talk about it in these terms too much, but essentially a high school has got 900 students and 90 adults. And order is maintained through rules and through expectations. This isn't a militarized state, and this is not a prison. This is, a school. And so authority and order need to be maintained through respecting adults. At the same time, we need to give students the opportunity to demonstrate their own voice and use it. So we're constantly trying to balance how to do that. Schools are public property. Now, that doesn't mean that people should have free access during the day and be able to disrupt the purpose of this school, which is instruction. But you know, there are plenty of people, these schools are open after hours, there's town meeting that takes place here, there are basketball games on Friday night that people attend. There's places where community events are held in our schools, and you know, it's public property and should be used by the public. So schools are schools. They're not prisons. They're not places that should be locked down tighter, and so finding that balance is very delicate. And I always try to explain to people that there's a difference between feeling safe and being safe. And I try to avoid things that make people feel safe but don't actually make them any safer, because I think it's a false sense of security that actually detracts some time from the welcomeness and the student-centered place that a school's supposed to be.
And in terms of the students, are they going to be, you said something about that they are trying, or maybe you were referring publicly, I mean to the larger picture, about students who are trying to get their voices involved here or in the subject of conversation. Have you had any kids reach out to you or anybody else that they want to have a, you know, any kind of conversation about it?
Well, as this is being run live, it is 1 o'clock on
You just got back
just
from
back
vacation.
from February vacation. We're starting to gather that information.
Yeah.
We're urging students who do feel they are the need to express their voice, to organize, and to meet with the administration of their school to discuss a way to proactively, respectfully, and safely demonstrate their feelings in such a way that we can maintain order in our schools, we can maintain safety of our students in our schools, and we can give them the opportunity to express their opinions.
Okay, and if that included a march, I mean, that would all just sort of factor into the conversation as you move
That
forward.
would be part of the conversation as we move forward.
All right, well, I certainly hope that we never have to face the reality here in town, but I'm grateful for you taking your time with us. I'm sure there are a lot of parents out there who are a little worried about their kids. So thank you, Dr. Jackson.
You're welcome.
All right.